The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Live tonight from Watkins, Glen International. LSRTV is with you to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to our continuing coverage of the 2018 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by English Auto L.L.C, where tonight we roll into round number 18 of 2018 and head out to Watkins, Glen, New York for the Watkins Glen 50, second road course of this 2018 campaign, second of three. The Roval will make an appearance a little bit later on this season. Until we get to that and more, it is Watkins Glen time, and we're happy that you're with us at Monday night at LSR TV and iRacing Live. Myself, Evan Pasoko, Trevin Valterrama, Brian Backlund upstairs with you, with Cisco Scarbuza in the production trailer. And Brian, we come into this race, only 3 races left to go, so a lot of the drivers in the overall championship standing, so that's all 17 races that have been completed thus far in the season, have a pretty good idea if they're in or if they're not by this point. Now, things are a little bit tighter when we discuss the Segment 2 Championship. And Dylan Jones only 22 points ahead of Farinar's, not looking like that he's going to take a time at a qualifying session here. And Farinar is currently seated on provisional pole. Could end up being a big swing if it stays like that through the final 3 minutes of qualifying.
And actually, Dylan Jones just popped up, and he looks like he's going to start right now, at least on the front row. He's got a lap of P2 sitting right there with a 1 minute 12-second lap. So very fast around this very quick road course we're going to run on here tonight. It's going to be a very exciting race, though. I look at the practice times, I look at the qualifying time so far. There is not a big gap in speed between your fastest drivers. Looking at it right now, the pole sitter Andrew Friednars, he ran that 112.7 as the pole sitter. Well, you look back to the 6th position, it's a 113.2, so only about a half a second difference between those 6 drivers. I have a feeling you might see those 6 drivers be on top of each other all night long in this race and really putting on one heck of a show for the win.
Certainly what we're going to expect to see, and Trevor, we saw this earlier on in the segment as well, when we went racing on the road course for the last time at Sonoma. Michael Guerrilla, race winner in that one, having picked up his only win to date so far on the season, while being second in the overall championship, only 18 points back of Brandon Bowie. Both those cars at the racetrack tonight, so that might tighten up just a smidge. But Guerrilla also has a chance here to, if he can pick up some time based on what the qualifying charts are showing now, he's one of those 6 drivers. He could go for a second win on the year, certainly.
He absolutely can, and I just love this kind of racing. It wipes the slate for most of these guys, and even with these oval drivers in here, you're still going to have some mix of guys that know how to do some better road racing out here. And, just such great racing is going to come from this track. I love this track. I love every single turn about this, the S's and everything. But I think the hardest part about this track for these drivers is going to be after the bus stop and to the start-finish line. That second half of the track is really going to be difficult for these drivers. I've seen it in practice for some of these drivers. It's really giving them a tough time, and I'm really excited to see how these drivers deal with it.
It is going to be an interesting one, no doubt. 50 laps going to be on tap, Brian, and we saw it with Sonoma, and we're certainly going to see it here tonight. About 15 cars total, so about 5 or so less than what we had been seeing in the last couple of weeks. Some drivers just don't show up to the road courses, and I guess if you figure you're not going to be able to get much out of it, you take the night off. We'll catch you in 2 weeks' time when we go racing at Darlington Raceway. So it does... I mean, when you look, I guess, the saturation maybe balances things out a little bit, because if you're here in this race specifically, I think that you have some amount of faith or confidence in your abilities to get around this 2.43 mile road course. So I think that while you will see less cars certainly in the racetrack, and again, we saw that at Sonoma earlier in the season, I think in that top X amount of positions, top 6 as you may have noted there, it's going to be very tight. Now, things will spread out over the course of 50 laps. If this race goes green, there's going to be ample wiggle room for these drivers, and it may come down to a pit stop and a little bit of strategy, but it certainly changes the complexion of how this race will look compared to the ovals that we've been to for the last couple of weeks.
Well, and the strategy part of it is going to be the most important part of this whole race. I fully believe this race will go green flag from start to finish, and the drivers have come into this thing with that mentality as well. So then you have to look at it, and we always hear them talk about it in real life. You run this race backwards. At what point can you come to pit road and be able to go to the finish without having to pit again? And the answer is going to be you can come to pit road around lap 16 or 17, and ideally you could probably make it to the finish from there. The problem is going to be how much are the tires going to wear out between that point and the end of the race. So you might see a couple of these guys elect to come to pit road twice, even though they only really have to come to pit road one time in this race. And that's what we're going to have to wait and see who does what type of strategy here tonight, and which strategy is going to end up being the winning strategy.
And we can kind of look back to years prior to get a little bit of precedent, but each race has its own individual characteristics, and we're not going to know how this would have played out until we actually get under green flag conditions. Cars now loading into the grid, so let's go trackside and take a look. This is your LSRTV starting grid. Andrew Friedars, who will roll for the top spot in this one. He does end up with the best time in qualifying, the 1:12.720. Going to put him on pole. He will be joined on the outside of the front row. That's the 11 of Dylan Jones. Daniel Eberhard starts third position tonight. Michael Guerrilla joins him on row 2, rolling off in fourth. And Kyle Kamer rounds out your top 5.
Brandon Bowie will start from the 6th position here tonight. He's looking to have a strong run at the road course. Braden Whitaker is going to start from 7th. Dwayne Vincent will start 8th. And then Tom Morano is the last driver to take a time. He starts 9th. And then we have Lionel Kalisto in P10.
And in to round things out, Spencer Preet, 11th position to get all of these times based on provisionals. Michael Cozy Jr. starts 12th with Brian Chambliss and Daniel Falkenham. 14th is going to be a look top to bottom at your LSRTV starting grid-driven cars rolling around the racetrack to take the green flag the next time by the start-finish line. So let's talk about this Watkins Glen racetrack, and it really depends on what track map you look at, because obviously, as we're all familiar with, the NASCAR circuit does not implement the boot, so there's less turns than the actual number. The iRacing service says there's 8 turns in the racetrack, and it's pretty much a true statement. But for some reason, that's not really how they refer to it. We kind of go all the way from, as right now the drivers are exiting the S's to get ahead to the inner loop. The outer loop's kind of turn 5. That's where you then go down into that whole other segment of the racetrack that we don't race on. So you kind of go from corner 5 to corner 10, which is the left-hander. Right-hander is going to be 11, and that's going to be the final corner. So just when we're referring to places on the racetrack, keep that in mind. And it's a little bit weird with the rules and whatnot that we're running with this Cup Circuit Watkins Glen, but it's a fun racetrack. We've seen so many good finishes here, not only in real life, but as well here with the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. And it's also very overcast conditions, which is something that I took note of. So there might be a tad bit more grip out there. It looks like it might rain. I promise you that's not a threat.
No, absolutely not. And, you know, right here where the drivers are driving through right now is where I've seen the most trouble for these guys. Coming out of that carousel turn, and I've seen a lot of drivers during practice get into that tire barrier right there, so I'm going to keep an eye on that. I'm really interested to see how these drivers are going to take the turns and exactly when these drivers are going to pit, because as Brian said, this is probably going to go green all the way. 9 times out of 10 road course races does, but it's going to be a great one for sure, Evan.
And there's not a lot of runoff spaces. In recent years, they've paved a lot of them over. Is an older scan. That grass is not forgiving at all. The field's going to come off for quarter 11. As always, we're happy you're spending a Monday night with us on LSRTV and iRacing Live. Pole sitter Andrew Friedars is going to take off. We're racing from the Glen, and it is a great restart for the Donnie and Daniel Eberhard. He'll instantly go 3rd to 2nd. Jones caught sleeping with the 88 pulling the trigger.
Whoa, we got one that went straight down into turn one right off the bat at the back of the field. That was Brian Chambliss. He just did not get turned into the corner, went straight into the Armco barrier down in turn one. And I believe that's going to result in a very early end to his night. So unfortunate there for the number 21 machine. What a horrible way to start off this race. And unfortunately, he's not even going to make one corner. But yeah, back up at the front of the field, Andrew Freenars, Daniel Eberhardt, they got a great restart. Not really sure what happened with Dylan Jones right there. He just did not get going at all. But he's trying to rebound now as he's got a pretty good run here as they come out of this carousel. He's right on the back bumper of Daniel Eberhardt, trying to see if he can get something. But you can see Eberhardt, he's able to accelerate a lot better coming out of the carousel. Gets a pretty good run. He's able to gap himself from the number 11 machine.
He gets himself that little bit of extra real estate, so trying to pull away just a little bit. Dylan Jones obviously is going to want to get that spot back. I've got behind them right now that looks like 5th position. Brandon Bowie was trying to set up the number 8 machine to Kyle Kamer for a pass, wasn't able to do it. Down in that short shoot between 10 and 11, but he's got to look to the inside. Turn number 1. The 8 leaves it open. There goes Brandon Bowie, nicely executed as he takes the spot, and even a nicer move for the 8 machine as he crosses him back. Not enough, though, to establish the positioning. He's on the inside there. He'll go to the outside, though, on the left-hand kink, and then I'll put Bowie back on top. And here comes Spencer Preet outside on the exit of the S's. Fantastic stuff, mid-pack.
And that was very dicey to go side by side into those S's. That's why I love them so much. You can go side by side and it just gets so close. It's a great way to see how these drivers can handle each other. Right now, Brandon Bowie taking a very big gap towards Spencer Preet and Kyle Kamer after what happened in turn number 1, but you know, maybe he just let him go, saying, hey, this is only the 2nd lap of the race, 3rd lap of the race, so let's just settle down, you know, let him go. We'll probably get it back later, but you know, it's great job. And Andrew Freenars coming out of last week at the Pocono racetrack, so you know, he's having a lot of confidence. You know, he broke Dylan Jones' 4-race win streak, as we've talked about before, and you know, I'm sure he's going to be wanting more after this race.
A lot happening towards the back. The one of Daniel Falkenham's going to be able to get up in front of Lionel Callisto, so they swap out 10th and 11th. And Brian Backlund, Dylan Jones was able to get back up into 2nd spot. It did look like that once Eberhardt got that gap obviously off at the start of this race and dove down, that the 11 was pretty determined on getting him back. I think Jones has a faster car at the moment. A quiet Michael Guerrilla so far stays in P4. It's the exact position in which he started this race, and he's got a good little distance between the cars, both in front and behind him, but a big mistake from Eberhardt. The 90 issues into the bus stop. He got all kinds of sideways, and that'll cost him. Guerrilla takes 3rd.
And I was getting ready to mention that is the one thing when you come to a road course you have to avoid, is making mistakes that cost you time on the racetrack. More times than not, attrition is what's going to get you a good finish. If you can outlast the competition, you're going to end up with a good run. That is going to hurt Eberhardt. It cost him a couple of positions, and it cost him a ton of time to the race leader. He's easily going to be about 5 seconds behind when it's all said and done. He's now back here racing with Brandon Bowie. He was up in the 3rd position, and he could potentially fall back as far as 5th here before it's all said and done. You see Bowie looking to the inside like he's going to try to make that move down into turn 1. That's a psych out move right there as a driver. You look to the inside going into turn 1 just to try to make the guy in front of you think that you're going to try to outbrake him into the corner. He had no intentions of actually doing it, but if you can make the guy you're chasing miss the corner or overshoot the corner, you can get an easy pass right there.
And that's exactly what you want to do, is play that game of chicken. That's almost what I thought Bowie was doing when he made that move on Kamer. We saw at the completion of lap 2 when he flashed those on that front straightaway. It really wasn't there, although Kyle gave him the space, and that 43 was eventually able to make that pass for position. Daniel Eberhardt in a tricky spot, though. He went up to 2nd at the very start of this race driven. Dylan Jones was able to pass him back, basically gave up that spot to Michael Guerrilla, which is not really a freedom you want to lend to the 17 team. They are certainly going to jump all over that and not think twice about it. And now he's under attack by Bowie. The 43 has done a good job of making some moves early. Spencer Preet in the 37. Not sure if we've mentioned him since the green flag dropped. He may be one of the better cars on the racetrack. He's already gone 11th to 6th, and he's also closed it in. So 2 fast cars on the charge. Trying to catch up to that 90 right now.
Yeah, really awesome to see how these drivers handle road course racing. That's really one of the main differences about a track like this. You know, ovals, you get 4 turns to make something happen. This, you're going to get 8 to 11, depending on how you look at this track. So, you know, great job done by these drivers. You know, 11 turns to make a mistake, to make a move. So, you know, it's really exciting. It just makes so many more opportunities for drivers around them, and we'll see how they all work out as they go into that bus stop chicane, Evan.
They head down to that end of the racetrack. It's certainly going to be one of the more difficult sections tonight. Looks like everybody okay that time through. Just an update on Brian Chambliss. We saw that car go hard into the outside wall going into quarter number 1. That car only slowed down because he was off of the accelerator, but the brakes never really got applied. He's sitting on pit road right now and is doing some sort of a diagnostic. If he has some sort of a wheel and pedal issue, he's turning those tires to the left and to the right and trying to see if he can figure something out. So he's continuing to try to fix that machine on pit road. It is already pretty mortally damaged, though, the race car. So even if he were to be able to get that sorted out, there wouldn't be much left for him to fight for from 14th position and already 3 laps down. But just for sake, that's an update on the driver of the number 21 car. Things still stack it up with Guerrilla, Everhart, Bowie, and Preet. Something's going to break out here, I think, Brian, in a lap or two. The question is, who's the first driver to get jumped on?
Well, I've been watching it, and I still think it's going to end up being Daniel Everhart because he is driving the wheels off of that car right now. I just see him. He's going into these corners, and he is driving it so aggressively right now, and that's what cost him the time in the first place. He tried going up into the bus stop right here just a couple of laps ago, and he was super aggressive. He does it again, gets right on the back bumper of Michael Guerrilla, and in doing so, here comes Brandon Bowie. They almost made a move 3 wide down into the carousel, but they thought better of it, and you can see now here comes Bowie once again trying to look to the back bumper of Daniel Everhart. He's not quite able to get the speed coming out of that corner to make that move, but now these 3 are right on top of one another. And can Daniel Everhart make the move on Michael Guerrilla? He tries to back the corner up here. Now he's going to try to look to the inside once again, but just can't quite get close enough. So he's going to have to try to set him up for turn 1 when they get down here to this end of the track.
Going to try to set him up. He's got a great run that time off of quarter 11. The charge down the hill. But the Nani machine stalls out about halfway, stopped gaining, and he will maintain that 4th position. But Daniel Everhart certainly driving very hard. And I think his main incentive for getting around the 17 is I want to put somebody in between me and the charge to Brandon Bowie and Spencer Preet. The 43 machine, the 37 as well. Those 5th and 6th place cars at a racetrack respectively driving a lot more calm. Trivet at the moment will maintain at about an equal pace to those 2 in front of him. Looks like Guerrilla Everhart driving a lot more aggressively right now. The 17 got off into the grass, off of the S's there. You can see them both popping the curves, but the 90 sliding it hard. The 17 got a little bit loose there. So these drivers full on going at it 8 laps in.
And you're seeing 2 completely driving styles from 2 completely different groups. You got the 17 and the 19, Guerrilla and Everhart, and then Bowie and Preet right behind them. Two up front are really being aggressive, while the 2 in the back are kind of being aggressive, but really just hanging back and making sure that they have something for the end of this race. They really don't want to put the issue in case they go into that Armco barrier out there, because as you said, grass is not forgiving and there's not a lot of runoff room here at Watkins Glen. So, you know, these drivers know that they have another, or at least 1 pit stop here at Watkins Glen. So really just buying their time, making sure they have something at the end of this 50-lap race to get them to the finish here at Watkins Glen, Evan.
And when we say, you know, the grass isn't very forgiving, obviously if you drive way off into the grass, it's not good. But with this version of Watkins Glen on the surface, it doesn't take a whole lot. A quarter of the tire, a half of a tire, get it off and into the grass. And that car is completely out of control. It's why I have so much fun watching these cars into the bus stop. The 17 spins. He'll go off and into the sand trap. Daniel Everhart tried so hard not to tag him, but they did make contact, and Guerrilla loses it into the bus stop. The 90 machine incurs some damage. He'll lose positions as he blew the exit of the bus stop, and all of a sudden it's chaos.
Absolute pandemonium right there, and it is so easy to do, especially when you're being chased like Michael Guerrilla was doing. You're constantly looking up in your mirror, you're constantly worried about where that driver is behind you, where Daniel Everhart was running at, and it just makes you kind of lose track of where you're at on the racetrack just for that split second. And he went off into the bus stop, just didn't get on the brakes as hard as he needed to, and when he realized that, it was too late and he went around, Fortunately for the 17, he doesn't have any significant damage. He got a little bit of contact from Eberhard hitting him, but other than that, and a little bit of, or well, a lot of lost track position, he's okay. He's going to be able to get going again. He probably did upset those tires just a little bit, which is not something you want to do on a road course, because once you get those tires heated up and they start sliding around, you're pretty much done for until you can get a new set on the car.
So he'll have to kind of tiptoe his way around for the rest of this thing. Guerrilla's fallen down to P7. Daniel Eberhard had a very quick recovery after that mistake. He almost, you know, just stuck the nose right into the tire barrier, but he was able to keep going the right direction, and he's not all that far behind Preet and Bowie, but that is now going to be a fight for position. The 37 looks to the right-hand side. That'd be the outside, though, as we head to the left-hander turn number 10, so he will tuck back down in line, but Preet kind of gets a free spot there, free two spots, with both cars in front of him having issues now. And if he can make this move on to Brandon Bowie, which he looks pretty posed to do, he would be able to rocket into the top 3 and into a podium position in more than just now 10 laps completed into this race.
Yeah, and you know, I just love that you see two different driving styles from these two different groups that we had earlier on before that incident did happen. You know, you're driving quick but conservative for Brandon Bowie and Spencer Preet. You know, they're just waiting for an incident to happen just like that, and as soon as they saw that option open, they took it, and now they're in front of those two cars from just being conservative but pushing it to the edge as well. Now, as you were talking about, Spencer Preet does, you know, he continues to look for an option, but I don't think he's going to press it too hard because there's still 40 or 39 laps left to go and a pit stop, so we'll have to see how this all works out for him. But still, Andrew Friedenar's leading Dylan Jones with a 2.3 second gap, so good stuff going on right now, and, you know, great battle for third.
The top two cars on the racetrack, pretty even lap times, but as you mentioned, it's already a 2.3 second gap now, so things very much in favor of Friedenar's. And we talk about spacing, and I'm sure a lot of the aggressive racing that we've seen here mid-pack is attributed to this, no doubt, but it's 8.2 seconds until you get back, Brian, to that third-placed car in line, which is then where we'll find the fight with Bowie, Preet, and so on and so forth. Eberhardt's still there, can't really forget about him, and then there's a lot more separation between drivers as you get further and further back in this one. And problems looks like for the 4 of Braden Whitaker. He was running in 12th position. That car had an accident into the bus stop and come down, hit the Armco barrier very hard on the entry to the box. That car has taken a quick tow to the pit lane, and just like that, another driver may be out of this one.
And that's where I said earlier in this thing that attrition is going to play a big factor in this. We've already had a couple of drivers have some pretty significant issues with Michael Guerrilla, Daniel Eberhard, now Braden Whitaker, of course, Brian Chambliss on the first lap of the race. I mean, that's just the nature of road course racing. The longer this race goes, the more tired these drivers are going to get, especially if we don't get that opportunity to slow things down for a moment. It's just going to be very hard for these guys to run 50 laps non-stop without making any mistakes, and that's why you have certain drivers that just always excel. You have those guys that you just know they're going to come to the road course, they're going to be fast, and you just know they're going to be the ones to beat every single week. And that's why, once again, we see Andrew Friedenar's, Dylan Jones at the front of the field. They've been the class of the field for the last couple of months, and they continue to do it right now. And as you mentioned, Andrew Friedenar's, Dylan Jones, they have almost 7 seconds on everybody else. And what a great battle we got going on right now for that 3rd, 4th, and 5th position. And Spencer Preet just will not leave Brandon Bowie alone. He was right on the back bumper of Bowie going into turn 1 now as they head up through the S's here. It's going to be a great run. Can he get up there? Here comes Daniel Eberhard as well. And you can see Bowie, he's sliding around trying to go uphill. This is one of the hardest parts of the racetrack right now because you're trying to accelerate, you're trying to shift, and you're also trying to now worry about a guy right on your back bumper. So many things going on that can cause you to make a mistake, and somehow they seem to do it cleanly every single time.
And I'm sure that 90 machine of Eberhard, as there's a mistake from Brandon Bowie. It's going to come on the exit of the bus stop. He had a little bit of a wiggle in the center, and that car just got too upset. He was so close to hitting those tires that we saw Eberhard hit, and the 43 keeps it out of it, but it'll cost him two positions. And my point was going to be that 90's not a perfect race car right now either. He'll make a mistake on 10 and lose a little bit of distance coming back around to the front straightaway, but the damage that car has, Trevin, can't have him at 100%, so he has to drive it that a little bit more to therefore keep up with the 37, who more or less has a pristine car, not having to make the mistakes that seems like everybody else around him has.
Yeah, and, he's been driving hard, and there he goes, sliding so hard into the tire barrier a little bit. He's got to back out in front of everybody. Thankfully, everybody's out of the way, and so close that he gets in contact with.
It's the 17 of Guerrilla, and a caution flag is out. Daniel Everhart in a blind corner, Brian, trying to get turned back around. The 17 comes at full throttle, and the 90 tries to yield left. The 17 guesses the same direction. That's a big wreck.
Man, and that is horrible for Michael Guerrilla because he just had nowhere to go. You're coming out of turn one, and you're trying to get through the gears and get up to speed, and all of a sudden you got this car coming back out in front of you. You have just nowhere to go, and he gets sent right up into the arm code. Daniel Falkingham somehow, if we can get an onboard on that one, that was wild because he somehow manages to avoid the number 17 machine as he's spinning around there coming out of that, or going up into the S's. Absolutely incredible. But this is going to change a lot of things now, Evan Pistocco, because as we get ready to, or as this caution has come out, now these drivers can come to pit road under caution flag. But the problem is, I don't think they're quite into that window where they can go to the finish without having to come to pit road again. So now we've forced all of these drivers into at least a two-stop strategy. Do they go for a splash and go later in the run, or are they going to go for tires if we go green from here to the finish?
That part on the racetrack has seen some big wrecks, might be one of the bigger ones we've seen here in a full throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series road course race in some time. And I completely agree with you, Brian, that this yellow is certainly going to mix things up in this race. We are used to these road course races going green ever since the random caution era ceased to exist. A couple years back, there would always be two random yellows at any point in the race, randomly generated to kind of mix things up. Now we just let the drivers go at it in a race, but certainly big implications in that, not only for the drivers involved in the view of the championship and whatnot, and I'm sure no one's going to be happy about that, so curious if any of that boils over into a post-race discussion, or maybe as we head into Darlington in 2 weeks, you see a little bit of retribution from the parties involved, but then, of course, also the big effect it has on this race. Certainly, I expect most of the cars to come down to the pit lane, gives you an opportunity to get tires, and for all the drivers who have found themselves in an issue place, Trevin, this evening, that weren't involved in that wreck and are on the hook, they can get some damage fixed as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's always going to give a little bit of extra help to all these drivers that need that extra damage fix, so they don't have to run as hard. But it's unfortunate that the 90 and the 17 got together again. 17 of Michael Guerrilla back down pit road. Probably Daniel Eberhardt's going to have to get some damage repaired for that. So that exactly is what we were talking about, Evan. He had to push it hard to continue to catch up with these guys because of his damage, and he just went over the line a little bit too much, and unfortunately went into the Armco barrier and collected Michael Guerrilla as well.
The driver's going to be headed down to the pit lane. It looked like Tom Morano stays out. He's a lapped car, so that's not a factor for your race leaders. I think the only cars who stay out are lapped machines. So what's the call going to be once you get down to pit road? A little bit of a mistake there is Daniel Eberhardt still in this race. Overshoots his box just a little bit on entry for the 88 of Andrew Farinas. Right side tires go on. It'll be that four-tire call drag race off of the pit lane. Dylan Jones almost got him, but not quite. And it'll be 1-2 in and out. Preet also comes in third and exits there. Kyle Kamer will pick up a spot. He leapfrogs Brandon Bowie for fourth and fifth.
What a good stop there for the number 8 machine. And I look at this Dylan Jones right here. This was his opportunity to get that track position, get ahead of Andrew Freenar. He didn't quite have the speed on the racetrack to keep up with the number 88 machine. However, it is very difficult to pass on the road course, and if he could have gotten ahead of Freenars, that could have been his opportunity to control this race to the finish. And now, since he's starting in the second position once again, I think he's going to have his work cut out for him. We saw on the initial start of the race that he really struggled to get up through the gears when we took the green flag. He's going to have to be on it a little bit better this time. He cannot give up that type of time right out of the gate like he did on the initial start if he wants to have any chance at this thing.
Driver's going to pace around and try to get this race back under green flag conditions. Kind of a reset button now. I said that Jones had more or less balanced out the lap times with he and Friedars, but at that point, it was already a 2+ second gap. This is a great opportunity for him to try to make some noise right out of the gate. Spencer Preet's on a lot of the legwork, gone 11th to 3rd. If he's got enough speed to really race for this thing, this is also a very good opportunity. So for as many cons as there are for a yellow, and, you know, for as much as that may mess with the company driver's strategy in this race, the opposite of that is, well, there's a lot of pros depending on who you are and where you run in the field, and drivers may benefit greatly from this one. We'll have to hang out and find out. We'll wait for the lights on the pace car to go at this time by. We'll look for a restart, so what we'll do in the meantime, we'll take a quick opportunity to step aside, and when we come back, we'll go back green flag racing from Watkins Glen. Friedars going to be a race leader. He's led all the way. We're 17 laps in of 50. iRacing Live. We're back live from Watkins Glen International, round 18 of the Full Throttle Racing Cup Series, powered by English Auto LLC. Is live tonight at LSRTV and iRacing Live. One yellow flag into this race thus far, and it's pretty much one more than we expected to see. Big problems coming out of turn 1 and up to the S's. Has a handful of drivers on the hook. We get set for our first restart of the evening. And Friedars in the number 88 machine, going to be in control of the field as the pace car gets set to make the dive down to pit lane this time through. Friedars wants to restart on the right-hand side. Going to put him on the inside, and the race down to corner number 1. Green flag flies for backing away, and he is a mile in front of the rest of the field.
And just like the initial start of the race, Friedars just gets out of the gate so much better. But you can see Dylan Jones, he drives it off into turn 1, almost gets rear-ended by the aid of Kyle Kamer. Somehow he was able to get away from him so that didn't happen. But he did give up a significant amount of time to the 88 now as they go up through the S's for the first time on this restart, trying to make it up through the gears. This is the trickiest part of the racetrack. It's not too bad right now on fresh rubber, but after about 5 or 6 laps, that is one of the scariest parts of the track to go around. Now they head down into the bus stop where you can make so much ground up if you can get onto the brakes just right. But you can see everybody's very conservative at this point of the run, trying to just get through here cleanly. We got a little bit of side-by-side action a little bit further back in the field. I believe that was between Lionel Callisto and Tom Morano, but they have sorted that out since, and now everybody is single file as they head around the carousel.
Single file for the moment as they get through that tricky end of the racetrack. The 37 of Spencer Preet trying to make a move on the gate of Kyle Kamer. Kamer, again, as we mentioned in that race down to turn 1, so good at locking up the brakes hard and staying off of Dylan Jones, who almost got punted. The 8's lucky that he didn't slam on the brakes for the car in front of him and then get hit in the back end himself. And there's that trick move that Brian was talking about earlier, Trevin. That 37 was a car length and so behind the 8, but he flashed it out early and held it on the inside pretty late until he actually had to get onto the brakes and then moved back to the outside to make that arc into 1. He was trying to bait Kamer into giving him some room, and the 8 did not fall for it.
Yeah, it just comes along with racing. You know what these drivers are going to do, and, you prepare for that, and you continue to adjust to what these guys are going to do. So just do not give them an edge. Don't let them get in your head, and continue to press on for yourself. So great job done. Great job done by the number 8, and the number 8 gets a little loose off that corner. Going to give Spencer Preet a little bit of a runoff room, but is not able to execute, and a great about 5-car battle for that second-place position, Evan.
And Daniel Eberhard, who was involved in the last incident, tried to race it out with a damaged race car. That did not work. He's crashed out of this race. That car has gone behind the wall, so Eberhard's night will be done. Jones way wide in turn number 11. How many spots is it going to cost him? It'll be at least 2 spots. Kamer by the second. Preet goes on, and Preet wants another one. He'll go to the inside, and he might have a fighting chance this time down to turn 1. Doesn't commit fully, though, and tucks back in line Michael Cozy. Gonna get on by the 11 to Dylan Jones. Brandon Bowie gonna come up the inside. A horrendous part of the racetrack for the 11.
Wow, Dylan Jones has just gotten completely out of rhythm right now, and he just needs to try to get in line somewhere and just focus on getting back into that rhythm. A horrible sequence of corners for him, taking him all the way from the 2nd position clear back to what I believe is going to be the 6th position when it's all said and done. So definitely needs to get that underway for him. Meanwhile, that battle is still on for 2nd position. As you can see, Spencer Preet all over the back bumper of Kyle Kamer. I believe he actually might have made contact going into the bus stop with the 8 machine. Did not turn him around, but did give him a little bit of a bump, just saying, hey, I am here. And you can do that on a road course. It's not as easy to do as it is at, say, a short track, but you can definitely use that front bumper. If somebody's in your way and they're holding you up, you give them a little tap, move them out of the groove, and you can get away from them. But the problem is you better make sure you can get away from them in a hurry, because if they can get back to you, they're going to certainly repay the favor.
And that's what you need to be concerned about, is you're almost running away from the cars behind you often, more so than you are running towards the end of this race. I had a question that maybe Dylan Jones was going to, use this caution at a race start to really work to his favor. It really hasn't gone that way. The 2.3 second disadvantage when he was running in second before the yellow is now a 5.3 second disadvantage as he runs in P6. It is gone way downhill for him. I still think Spencer Preet's holding off a little bit. He's had a couple of chances if he really wanted to put it to Kamer and look to the inside again down the back and once again back off. But Preet and Cozy, dynamic duo, started 11th and 12th next to each other on row 6, and both of them run right now 3rd and 4th. Very impressive runs for those two.
Yeah, and all the action has really calmed down since that first part of the stage. They know that they have another pit stop coming on, most likely. Brian pointed out, this kind of forced them into a 2-stop strategy. Maybe they're easing it off to maybe save some fuel, maybe trying to do everything that they can in their power right now. Spencer Preet looking to the right side of Kyle Kamer, and he's going to be able to get to the low side. So close, gets a little wiggle off the room. It's a drag race now to turn number 1, Evan.
The 8 machine's going to have the outside. Look at him trying to pinch the 37 down, push him offline. He'll go for the undercut, it looks like, the 37. And it's going to work out for the 37 machine as Spencer Preet, the 8, couldn't cross him over Brian because Cozy cut him off.
Yeah, he was too busy. He was trying to get that run out of turn 1 so he could try to undercut the 37. Like you mentioned, he had a little bit of company right there with Michael Cozy Jr. Just wasn't quite able to do it. He has lost that position to the 77 of Michael Cozy as well. So you can see how quickly you can lose a little bit of ground and how quickly a guy like Spencer Preet can get away. He's gapped these guys by 6, 7, 8 car lengths, and now Kyle Kamer actually almost had a little bit of an off-road excursion going through the bus stop right there. Managed to keep it on the track, but definitely threw some dirt in the face of the guys behind him, which is going to make things interesting for sure. But this is part of road racing. We saw Spencer Preet, he rode behind that number 8 machine for several laps, and he showed his hand. He showed that he was quicker, but he was very patient with him for a few laps. And then he finally got to that point where he got tired of being patient, and he forced the issue to get underneath him and make that move. That's what you have to do on road course racing. It just comes to a point where you have to make that move and just be that aggressive. Otherwise, you're never going to make ground. And he keeps looking in his windshield, and he sees that 88 car getting smaller and smaller. He can't afford to let him get too much further out there.
You cannot let him to get too much further out than the gap is right now at the moment. It's already, I think, a very difficult margin to be able to make up in green flag conditions, regardless of the fact that there's still 27 or so laps left in this race. Again, though, with a 50-lap race, closing in on halfway already from Watkins Glen International. So with that latest shakeup, it's Preet in second, Cozy third, Kamer and Bowie then 4-5. Dylan Jones at the back in the number 6 position is where we sit now. And I think for one of the first times tonight, and surprisingly maybe so, I think everybody's got a little bit of space on each other.
Yeah, no doubt. And, exactly, again, the action has calmed down. Other than that, you see an opportunity, obviously you're going to take it, but, just waiting for that possible next stop, and then you're going to see all this action ramp up. Nobody wants to get out of this race. Obviously, we've seen 2 incidents that have happened very, very easily tonight here, so, just got to watch out for what you're driving for and, continue to keep monitoring and not pushing it to the limit too much. But Spencer Preet doing a great job holding on to that second place. Michael Cozy Jr., we saw him in the first part of this stage or race in the back parts of this track. So, you see him come up to third place is a really great job. Starting 12th, he's done a great job getting up to that third place position. We'll see if he can get more.
The objective, just get a little bit more, and you never know if another yellow comes out in this race. If you're Kamer, and as I say that, a caution flag is out. I believe it had been the number, no, not the 20, Chambliss was sideways. The 97 machine of Lionel Callisto is where the caution flag is going to come from. He had a big crash in the left-hander. Looks like that was going up and into the S's. Lionel Callisto catches the curb. He crashes hard, and that is going to be a caution flag.
And that is just, as I've mentioned a few times, the S's are part of the hardest part of this racetrack. Trying to go uphill, get through the gears, get up to speed as much as you can. You're full throttle at that point, or you're attempting to be full throttle, and you're whipping the car hard right and then making a hard left. And when you do that, it just really makes the car a handful to drive. And it just looked like he made that left-hand turn, got up onto the curbing just a little bit, and he couldn't hang on to it. But just one of those deals, and it's another case of attrition really just starting to come into play. We're 24 laps into this race, and the guys that maybe aren't used to running road courses all the time, or maybe don't run road courses very much at all, it's a tough transition to make, to come in and try to run these races a couple of times a year and be able to actually make it to the finish without having any major issues. And unfortunately, we're seeing that be the case here tonight.
So what this will do is take the question of what was going to happen with fuel out of the question. If everybody heads down to the pit lane and gets serviced, then obviously you're going to be able to go 25 laps on to the end of this race. And I know we joke a lot about Trevin talking about a yellow and then kind of jinxing it, but I mean, literally, as I bring up the idea of what a caution flag might be able to do for some of these drivers, a Kamer or a Preet or somebody else, again, who's been able to make some progress but is still looking for that little bit extra. As I'm saying it, the caution flag comes out, but my point that I was going to make holds true, and that is this could also be very good for them. Well, Andrew Freinars is getting tired of having to come back and slow down for everybody.
Yeah, and, I'm not saying, but I'm saying that was absolutely all on you, because you said it and it just came out. So talk about a commentator's curse right there. But, you got to love this as well. It's going to give everybody a chance to come down pit lane and not worry about pits the rest of the time here at Watkins Glen. So everybody's just going to go full force and battle against each other. So action is definitely going to ramp up. And this is actually the first time that I've ever seen a caution come out on a road course. So we'll see what happens the rest of this race.
We'll see how this one plays out as pit road's going to be open. Drivers can head down and expect all of them to want to fill our tank of fuel to be able to get to the end of this race. And then, of course, the 4 tires to make sure that they can get going when the green flag does come back out. But Freitas was very close to being beaten off in the pit lane the last time by the 11 of Dylan Jones. Jones going to come down pit road P6, Brian, but you still have to execute. No mistakes for your race leaders.
And if you're Andrew Freenars, you know how fast your car is. You do not want a mistake here on pit road to cost you the race lead, because we've seen how difficult it can be to pass, and you need to make sure you don't give up any of that track position. Even just one position could be detrimental to you potentially having a shot to win this thing. 4 tires and fuel. This will be the main stop to get them to the finish, and easily winning the battle off of pit road will be Andrew Freenars, followed by Spencer Preet, and then it looks like it's going to be, I thought it was going to be Kyle Kamer, but it was a very close race off. Looks like Dylan Jones might have just barely beat him to the cone, so Dylan Jones is going to gain a few of those spots back that he lost on that last run, trying to get closer back to the front of the field here.
Dylan Jones very fortunate that that cone, the green cone, that white line basically to mark the race off of the pit lane is literally right at the exit of that first pit box, so it really favors drivers who had a much better qualifying effort. Good news about this is even though we're pitting on the opposite side of the car, your sim pit crew doesn't stumble over each other or have any more issues, which is obviously a factor here on the real world side of things, in comparison when you're doing things backwards. So nice cleaning it out for everybody else. Freitas comes in first. He exits in first position, so no changes amongst your race leaders. And we're going to wait till one more time around before we actually restart this race. Gives us a good opportunity to remind you that coverage of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series is brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you spend your time on the sim from behind the wheel, on the pit box, or from the spotter stand, JRT is the go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. You can get yourself a basic and download it for free, or get the full pro version today by going online to joel-real-timing.com for more information. Proud sponsor of LSRTV on iRacing Live. And something else that we can knock out here while we pace under yellow flag conditions is 26 laps now going to be complete. Scoring's going to cycle through at the line. That means that we will cross the halfway point in tonight's race. So let's take a look at our iRacing midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, and more. It'll be a restart coming up with 23 laps to go. Andrew Freitas will lead us to that restart. He is your race leader all the way through. Now 27 laps of this race. Spencer Preet's in a race high P2. Dylan Jones runs third at the moment with Kyle Kamer fourth, and Michael Cozy Jr. rounding out your top 5.
Daniel Falkingham currently sits in the 6th position here tonight. Tom Morano is running 7th. Brandon Bowie, who was up inside the top 5, top 3 actually, is falling back to the 8th position right now, followed by Dwayne Vincent in 9th, and Michael Guerrilla getting back on the lead lap after having that incident with Daniel Eberhardt. He is currently running P10.
P11 will go to Lionel Callisto, 1 lap down, and Daniel Eberhardt, Brian Chambliss, and Brandon Whitaker will be your following 14-car field here tonight at Watkins Glen.
And actually, good news for you. Bad news if you're Daniel Eberhardt, because he and Whitaker are both out of this race. But I know we were discussing some of the issues that Chambliss had had a little bit earlier on. He has been able to figure out whatever the issue was, so he has been on track for the last 19 laps for his race. So he has passed Eberhardt and Whitaker, so Chambliss up to 12. Just at that completion of the lap. So good for the 21 team trying to stick this one out. Nonetheless, that's a look top to bottom at your iRacing midway race break. For more information on the wide varieties of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. And if you do not currently have an iRacing subscription already, if you go to iRacing.com/membership, you can get 40% off all membership levels, anywhere from a 3-month to a 2-year, and there's a couple of new things coming to free content. The Chevy SS is going to be free content soon in September. Michigan International Speedway is going to be new in September. All of that's going to be part of the free content, so make sure you get over and sign up today at iRacing.com/membership. Pace car is going to dive back down and in. Andrew Freitas has been out so good tonight on the race starts. He needs another one as we look to go 23 laps to the end of the race from Watkins Glen. Green flag in the air, and Dylan Jones is better behind him from third. He'll challenge Preet to turn 1.
And possibly the best restart that Dylan Jones has had all night. But the problem is he's going to be side by side when they get down to turn one. Spencer Preet on the outside almost gets ran into by Michael Cozy Jr. And that little bit of a hiccup might have just cost him that second position. Indeed it will. Spencer Preet's able to slide ahead of him now as they go up through the S's and head towards the bus stop. But you can see Andrew Freenarch has already gapped these guys by about 10 car lengths as they head up through this area of the racetrack for the first time once again here. And now they have to try to make up that ground as quickly as possible if they want to have any chance. We know now fuel is not going to be an issue, tires won't be an issue, so this is the run where you have to do everything you can to stay with Freenarch and force him into a mistake that might potentially give you a chance at the lead.
You certainly have to drive real aggressive, and Dylan Jones has had his fair share of mistakes tonight. I'm sure Freenarch doesn't see that it is quite fit, that he has ran basically a perfect race thus far, and a guy that's had ample opportunities and has made mistakes with those chances, has had kind of a second shot at life here with a couple of yellows and restarts, but the 37, or I should say the 88 machine, out in front and comfortable enough that that 37 machine not immediately pressing, but certainly in a much better position than we have seen some of these challenges come from thus far tonight.
Yeah, and, you know, you just got to love seeing a restart here. You know, you had a great battle going on. Michael Cozy Jr. got down to fourth. Dylan Jones got to third. Spencer Preet holding on to that second place. And Andrew Freenarch with a great restart. We've seen it all night long. He's been dominating this whole entire track. Really, this is his race to lose. So, great job done by him. Dylan Jones, both Dylan Jones and Spencer Preet get a little loose. So, we'll see how this battle goes out into the bus stop chicane. Both lay off each other for the moment's time. And Spencer Preet sideways again into the grass. So close to wrecking that whole entire machine. Great job done by him now going through the carousel, Evan.
And the 37 was completely off the racetrack when he came out of the bus stop that time. And that's really going to hurt him. He was doing a very good job of pressuring Freenarch. Now you give the 88 machine a little bit of extra space. He could breathe. And at 37, Albron, I think, more concerned with Dylan Jones on his back bumper than he is with catching up to your race leader. We have not seen Preet like this all night. Remember, we've seen the 11 making some mistakes. We had seen Eberhardt when he was up front slotting that car on exit. But the constant was Spencer Preet was the driver in control, methodically making his way through the field. But he certainly looks flustered now, loses more time with a little bit of a slow exit out of corner one. And the 11 of Dylan Jones on top of him up the S's.
I think the thing for Spencer Preet is that most of the night he has been the guy chasing somebody in front of him. He's been able to put the pressure on. Now he's having the pressure applied to him with the 11 being right on his back bumper. It's really the first time he's had to deal with that all night long, so it's forcing him into some mistakes. And he is trying with everything that he's got to try to chase down that 88 machine. And when you're driving that hard, eventually mistakes are going to happen. And you can see he was able to get through the bus stop a lot better that time. Actually, looks like he might have made up just a little bit of ground on Andrew Freenarch, as he looks like he's closed that gap down just a hair here. But he's not close enough to make any type of move, and he's going to have to do this for several laps to be able to get any opportunity to get back to Andrew Freenarch. And then you have to hope that you can either catch him making a mistake or just try to outbrake him into one of the braking zones and be able to maybe make a move on him to go for the race lead. But you can't have a mistake like that coming out of the final turn. Got a little sideways, kicked that car, or kicked the back end of that car around just a little bit. That did cost him some time, but he still ended up making up almost 0.3 of a second right there, Evan Pasoko.
Yeah, it was not a very good lap for your race leader, Andrew Freenarch. That last lap was a 1:13.1. An entire tenth slower than the lap that he had made prior. Now, obviously, these fresh tires are going to begin to wear, and these drivers are going to start to run slower lap times every single time around the racetrack. But, you know, for his out of control, Preet looked, he is still doing a very good job of being stubborn and not letting the 88 machine run away with this one. And in fact, he's really started to close down the back of the track there. He's back within a couple of car lengths as they go through the outer loop, the carousel, and they'll head down that short chute to the left-hander in 10, the right-hander in the 11, and they come to complete lap number 31.
And here they go into that section that you were just talking about, evenly spaced, essentially, with Spencer Preet coming to that back bumper pretty quickly to Andrew Freenarch. So we'll see how this all works out. And you just said, you know, the tires are going to be wearing out here pretty soon, and you thought that Spencer Preet got a little loose out of the bus stop chicane. Well, just wait until those tires are completely cooked, and he's going to have a little harder time hanging on to that car. So we'll see how this all works out for him going into turn number 1. Dylan Jones pressuring him as well.
Pressuring him as well. That's the goal. Just continue to keep that constant amount of pressure. But there's enough space now where I don't think we're in a situation like we were 2 laps ago. That's when the 11 was all over the 37. And I think Spencer Preet was playing more defense than he was playing offense. But a big wiggle, 2 wiggles that time into the grass coming out of the S's. He keeps it on track. That is not normally something you can get away with. He's driving it so hard now. And Farinars, despite all these mistakes, is not being able to take away anything from him. And the 37 about wrecks the car on 3 separate occasions, and he gains time, and Jones closes in as well.
He gained time temporarily, but really coming out of the bus stop, he gave up a lot of that time right back, and now he's back into a situation where he has the 11 pressuring him. Here comes Dylan Jones looking to the inside down in turn 10, trying to make that move. He was not able to do it. Spencer Preet was able to get off the corner and get away from him, but now the pressure is really on as Dylan Jones is right there, and that's the best thing Andrew Freenars could see right now, is if these two can get racing, even if it's just for a couple of corners, that could open that gap up just enough to where he has some breathing room, and maybe he won't have to worry about these guys being able to catch him. But you can see Spencer Preet now is trying to open his gap up over Dylan Jones and has another great run coming out of turn 1, closes back in on the back bumper of that 88. This has really been his strongest part of the racetrack, coming up through the S's and then getting to the bus stop. The thing he cannot do is what he did a lap ago when he got to the top of the S's. He got loose, he got up in the grass. He's going to make it a lot smoother this time. Now he's going to drive down into the bus stop and see how aggressive he's going to be this time, if he's going to really drive it in there. He is very aggressive, tries to make room, and Freenars made a big mistake. Here comes Spencer Preet for the lead in the carousel.
He'll cut the grass, go to the inside, and they are side by side for the race lead at lap 33, and the 37 still all kinds of sideways. A huge slide, and Spencer Preet going to go to the race lead with 17 laps to go for the first time tonight. The 88 of Farinars backs off as Jones goes to his outside. That fight's now going to be for second position, and the mistake in the bus stop costs him dearly. Farinars falls to third, and for the first time tonight, a new race leader, it's Spencer Preet.
Exactly what I said. These guys have the most problem coming out of the bus stop into the carousel and then through 10 and 11. So we'll see if that happens again. Spencer Preet got a little bit sideways, but it was able to hold on to it. Cuts the grass just like a lot of people have. Dylan Jones looking to that right side of Spencer Preet. Ain't able to get him through the S's now. We'll see if anything happens. Nothing does. They're going to do a drag race down into that bus stop chicane where all this calamity happened just a lap ago, Evan.
And back down to this part of the racetrack, and that 37 is not afraid, but he keeps tempting the 11 to Dylan Jones. We saw first when he made that slide up in front of Farinars, he cut the exit of the bus stop to get to the inside. He was so sideways flying out of the carousel, but stayed in front of him and dared the car behind him to run him over if that's what it came to. And then in that fight with Jones, Jones was looking to the inside, up the S's on this lap, and again, cut him off, daring that driver to make him pay. The 37 fearless out in front.
The last time Spencer Preet went to victory lane in this series was at the very first race of the season back in Daytona. You've got to believe that, I'm sorry, back at Dover rather. You've got to believe he wants to get back to victory lane, establish himself as we get closer to the playoffs, and prove that he can get up there and challenge with these guys. It's been the Dylan Jones and Andrew Freenar show for the last 2 months, and now he wants to come in here and say, hey, look, you guys aren't the only 2 drivers that can get the job done and go to victory lane. He is putting on one hell of a show here tonight, and he has definitely got a fast race car. Now he's just got to hold on for 15 more laps, but that's going to be a very tough thing to do. And you got 2 guys as good as Dylan Jones and Andrew Freenar right on your back bumper. You cannot make any mistakes. We saw how quickly one mistake can cost potentially the fastest car in the race the shot at the win. Andrew Freenar had dominated this race, led every lap until that mistake, and now here it is. Spencer Preet makes the mistake coming out of the bus stop. Dylan Jones looks to the inside as they go through the carousel.
The 37 cannot keep the rear end of the car underneath him. Here comes Jones. It was the inside of the carousel, but it's going to put him on the outside of turn 10. Can he clear down to this corner? He drives it in so hard. The 37 tucks up in line, and again, another gutsy move by the 37, this time to defend P2, and it is now Dylan Jones in the 11, the car who started second, made mistakes, fell to P6, has clawed back up top, and the lap-led streak by Preet does not last long at all, as now Dylan Jones becomes the third different race leader in 4 laps.
Great job done by Dylan Jones. He's waited until a perfect opportunity to pass Spencer Preet. Great job done by him tonight. He's going to now pull away, and, you know, we've seen this happen time after time. You know, that later part of this track does bite some people, so we'll see how he runs into this bus stop chicane and see if it opens up the door for Spencer Preet or Andrew Freenars, as they have really broken away with about a 2-second gap back to the next car. That is Michael Cozy Jr. in 4th. And, you know, they're still close together. So this is the closest race that we've had all race long. You know, obviously you're seeing them pushing it because there's no need for a pit stop after this. So they're just pushing it and going.
All they got to do, and at this point, there's really no turning around, but a fight upcoming for second may be very good news for Dylan Jones. And again, Preet was the calm, cool, and collective one in some of these extreme battles. Now he's making mistakes. Freenars was the picture-perfect one to the race start. Now he's also been making mistakes, Brian. So obviously nobody immune to it, and these aren't really the mistakes that we had kind of alluded to earlier where, you know, somebody would just miss the corner exit and, you know, you end off in the runoff. The grass gets you and the car gets loose. I mean, the cars are so out of control because they're driving them like madmen, jumping the curbs, throwing it in there, cutting the corner exits, doing absolutely everything. You would have thought that battle at 15 laps to go was a battle on the white flag, and we might not be done yet, but it's going to be tough to group these 3 cars back up. We're starting to see Dylan Jones pull away. He just has to not make mistakes. Don't give those drivers any chance at getting back to you.
And this just goes to show you how important the track position is, because Andrew Freenars dominated this thing. He drove away from both of these drivers earlier on in the race. He had 2.5 seconds on Dylan Jones on the first run. At one point, he had almost 8 seconds on Spencer Preet in this race, and now he's sitting back in 3rd, and he is having a very hard time getting back to either one of these drivers to be able to challenge for that second position or even for the race lead. The fastest car in the race doesn't always necessarily get the victory, and you can see here comes Spencer Preet now as he got a really good run through turn 10. He's closing back in on Dylan Jones. We had seen that 11 car kind of gap these guys just a little bit, but now you can see he's starting to come back to him. But Spencer Preet messes up coming out of the final turn. That's going to open the door for Andrew Freenars. Now he looks to the inside as they head to turn 1. Can he make the move stick? He's down on the bottom of the racetrack, but Spencer Preet is not going to concede it. He gets a pretty good run coming out of turn 1, and it looks like he's going to hold on to that P2 spot.
Yeah, the 88 went for the move, but again, Andrew Freenars still not willing to risk life and limb to make that pass. Doesn't squeeze him high or anything along those lines. He wants to maintain that pristine 88 machine, which is something not a lot of drivers can say. The 37, another mistake. It's a gutsy move to the inside of the bus stop. That's what we'd like to see. What a move by Andrew Freenars to move into second, but he can't get it rode down off of the corner, and he's going to miss the exit of the bus stop, and just as quick as he got it, Preet takes it right back.
And that's exactly how it goes here at road course racing. One person slips up, then another, and it's basically equaled back out to what they were before. And now, with that, Jones is pulling a sizable gap. So can he get his 5th win on the year? And 5th win in 6 weeks, that is. Only Andrew Freenars was able to take away his 4-race win streak from last month. So great job done by him. Great job done by all of these drivers here tonight. And you know, this is shaping up to be a great final 10 laps coming up.
Going to be 11 laps to go as of the next time around, and that exchange has really hurt Preet and Freenars. The 88, I kind of said that he didn't really fully commit to it down into turn 1. Brian certainly sent it when they went into the bus stop, and he drove it in so hard to get the spot. I think Spencer Preet kind of saw what was happening and said, listen, I'm not going to challenge it for it, and the 88 made it into the corner, just couldn't get it slowed down enough to make it off of the corner, and what was a 6 or 7/10 of a second gap is now 2 seconds. So if Andrew's really got a race car that can get around Spencer Preet and fight for the race win, that might have been his one and only opportunity, because you really lost a ton of time to 37 sideways, but I guess as always, as he really throws it into the carousel.
Yeah, for Andrew Freenars, the clock has quickly started to run out of time for him with just 11 laps to go. As you mentioned, he needed to make that move and give himself all of that time while he was close enough to Dylan Jones to actually put pressure on him. Now, even if he can get past Spencer Preet, he's so far back where Dylan Jones can just kind of hit his marks, get into a rhythm. He can afford to give up a little bit of time to these two drivers, and he still most likely will have enough of a cushion to make it home to the finish without any major issues. And as they cross the stripe right there, he actually gained about 0.3 of a second on both of these drivers. So he's doing what he needs to do at this point. And unless he makes any major mistakes, I don't believe you're going to see either of these drivers get back into it. This battle for second place might end up being the battle we're going to have to watch all the way to the finish. However, there is some lap traffic that Dylan Jones is getting ready to come up on. I saw a slower car up there in front of him. Tom Morano is just a handful of car lengths ahead of our race leader. Depending on where he catches that 48 car, that could play a factor. He's actually looking like he might catch him right here in the middle of the bus stop. If he can get him on the exit of the carousel or of the exit of the bus stop, he's going to be okay. And it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen, so it won't cost him any time. Now, where will the second and third place cars catch the slower car?
And a nice move there for Tom Morano to just get out of the way. He was the last car on the lead lap at position 10. So he will have to lose his lead lap status, but he was the only piece of lap traffic for a good little bit. He'll stay high in turn 10 and let the second and third placed cars go on by as well. So I don't think that is really going to hurt Dylan Jones at all. And that fight for second may be where you have to put all your marbles and seeing if anything else is going to come out of this race. Like Cozy, pretty lonesome at P4. P5 and 6, not all that far apart. That's Daniel Falkenham and Brandon Bowie. So that's another fight to keep a half eye on, but I think Preet Faridar's kind of burned each other out while fighting with each other, and I mean, what a run. Look at the 37, still just can't get the back of the race car underneath him, and Faridar's wants to pass him, but probably doesn't feel safe next to the 37, and there he goes on the outside. Nice move on the top to get around Preet, who just could not get into the gas at all.
Yeah, and, again, we're seeing the tires wear off here, and, obviously Spencer Preet had a little tougher time than most people do here, so, through the S's, really tricky spot, so great passing opportunity as well, and Andrew Freenars was able to take that away from him. We'll see if he can get anything back. Dylan Jones, obviously 2.5 seconds in front of both of these guys, so we'll continue to watch these intervals click off each lap and see what they come down to, or if they're just going to keep on going up as the race wears on. But, great job, again, done by all of these drivers. Still 9 drivers on that lead lap for 50 laps that are road courses. That's pretty good. Right now, we still have a little battle going on. Right now, oh, Kyle Kammer gets tapped a little bit by the number 48. That's a lap down car. Nearly sent it into the Armco barrier. Great job done by him. Very close call for that.
Yeah, that's the same. That's Tom Morano. Morano, we saw him get out of the way at that same part of the racetrack just not all that long ago with the race leaders. I don't think he necessarily saw the 8, and I think that move really comes down to Brian. It looked like Morano was going into the corner normally, saw the 8 come up behind him quickly, and then tried to get out of the way, and it had already upset the 8. It looked like Kaber just kind of tried to buzz the tower on the way off of the corner and cut himself over the nose of the 48.
Yeah, and his problems just got worse for the 8 machine, because coming out of turn number 1, he kicked that car sideways and hit the tire barrier on the right side of the racetrack, and doesn't have any significant or major damage to the car, but just adds insult to injury after what just happened right there. But unfortunate for him. Meanwhile, back at the front of the field, this is Andrew Freenar's opportunity. Now that he has gotten clear of Spencer Preet, he has an opportunity. He still has a little bit of time. He's going to have to be very aggressive at this point to make up that 2.7 seconds. But if he's got as fast of a car as we saw him have earlier in the race, now is when he's going to have to show it. The problem we're going to run into is how hard has he driven that car through the course of this run? Does he have any tire left? And looking at the times right there, he just lost 0.3 of a second to the race leader. So that tells me he must have really drove this car hard at the beginning of the run, and I don't believe he's got any tire left to actually chase down that 11 machine.
The loaded Dylan Jones could pretty much put it in cruise control. You just don't have to be 3 seconds slower. You don't even have to be faster, just no more than 3 seconds slower than Freenar's over the course of the next 8 laps. That is, if we can stay green. This race has already seen 2 cautions, and there has definitely not been an absence of incidents, so you never know as the 11 Dylan Jones crosses his fingers and tries to go for what would be, we talked about that 4 win in a row streak that was broken as of last week with Freenar's winning. Dylan Jones had won the prior 4 at Chicago, Daytona, Kentucky, and New Hampshire. A nice bounce back, Trevin, getting that streak snapped by a P2 finish and dropping his average finish down to a 1.2 over the course of those weeks. If he could win tonight, it would be his 5th in 6 weeks, and again, having not finished any lower than a P2 in a Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series race in a month and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, he's just done such a great job week in, week out, always there pressing for that lead. And, you know, all he has to do is continue these 6 laps without incident, and he's got it in the bag again. He's got his street or racing win back. So, you know, great job. And, you know, I'm sure he's going to be jumping up in the point standings again. You know, currently sitting 3rd place overall points. So, you know, and leading the Segment 2 championship with Andrew Freenars right behind him. But, you know, great job done by these 2 drivers this whole entire Segment 2. So excited to see how this race finishes out and how this segment finishes out as well.
That's all you're hoping for. You know, try to close out the segment, go playoff racing in the middle of September, and that's really when these drivers are going to have to put it up for the championship and try to become the 2018 Full Throttle Cup champ. Just kind of, at this point, Brian, with the space in between the cars, and Falkenham and Bowie continues to be one of the closer battles on the racetrack. In fact, Michael Cozy in 4th is starting to fall back to those cars, so it may be a 3-way fight for 4, 5, and 6 before the checkered flag does fly in this race. But really what I'm doing is just watching a lap time. Somebody like a Dylan Jones, a 1:14.5. It was a 1:14.4 for Freenars. That's good, but not good enough.
No, that's not good enough when you only have 6 laps remaining left in this race the way that we have for these drivers. You need to be making big chunks when you're 3 seconds behind like Andrew Freenars is. But this battle, as you mentioned, between Daniel Falkenham and Brandon Bowie, it has been going on for quite a while now. And you can see these guys just continue to go after it. And it really, this is where it just becomes a game of cat and mouse. You find a section of the track where you're better than the other driver, and you try to really capitalize on that area of the racetrack to see if you can make up a ton of time. I've noticed that Brandon Bowie has been very good in the downhill section of the racetrack. When we get through the bus stop, go through the carousel, and then around back to the start-finish line, that's been the part of the racetrack where he has been able to make up a pretty significant chunk of time on the 1 car. The problem is when we get back around to turn 1 and then go up to the S's, that's where Falkingham's able to open that gap back up. So just like I said, that game of cat and mouse, and that's just how it's been. And you can see they just maintain that little bit of a gap between each other, and it's going to take a big mistake by one or the other in order for something to change.
And that's the question, is who's going to be the driver that slips first if one of them does make a mistake. Spencer Preet has fallen way off for the race leaders, almost to the point where he has to be concerned for the cars behind him catching up, because he is way off the pace by nearly a second per lap. Freenars in 2nd loses time to Jones at 5 laps to go, which pretty much ends his night, but ends his night in terms of battling for the race lead. 2nd place, still a fantastic result, don't get me wrong. But with Cozy slotting to back, Trevor and Preet now really falling to back. 3rd through 6th still up for grabs in these closing 4.
Yeah, shaping out to be a great battle for this last few spots here. You know, great job staying together. Again, we're seeing this little group stay together, and 77 has a bit of a lead, so Cozy doing such a great job, and Falkenham under pressure from Bowie. He's been under pressure for a while, so we'll see if anything does come of that. Brandon Bowie doing a fantastic job keeping up with these 3 guys. Cozy nearly put the left stud tires into that grass, and that would have been really bad for him, but able to keep it on the track so far. So we're going to monitor this for a little while and see what comes out of it.
All we can do is sit and wait to see how this one plays out, and curious to see really how far back Preet's fallen off. Lap time this time by again with a 1:15, but in comparison to the likes of Cozy and whatnot, a 1:15.9. So he's much slower than the cars in front of him, but I don't know if it was a couple of big mistakes or something that had caused him to initially slide back, but it looks like Preet's got his water wings back on, and he is not going to sink any further on the scoring pylon. He should, again, mistake-free, be able to defend. The top 3 may be all set, but it's going to be that 2nd group of Cozy, Falkenham, and Bowie still up for grabs, and kind of been hyping this one up, Brian, for 5 or so laps by now, and nothing's happened yet. I don't know if they're just intentionally waiting to meet up on the last lap or what, but something's got to happen, right?
Absolutely, and the thing is Daniel Falkenham and Brandon Bowie, they have been running down Michael Cozy Jr. for the last handful of laps. They've gotten down to within just a couple of car lengths of him now, and this is where it becomes trying to wait for the driver in front of you to make a mistake. The cars are handling so badly at this point it's hard for you to want to make that move, dive off into the corner and see if you can get to the inside, because you know you're not going to have the grip in the tires to get back into the gas when you try to make that move. So you have to be very careful, very meticulous about the move that you're going to make. And ultimately, like I said, it comes down to waiting for the driver that you're chasing to make a mistake, waiting for Michael Cozy Jr. to overdrive that one corner. Maybe show your hand like we talked about earlier in the race. Go wide going into turn one. Just look into the inside like you're going to make the move. See if you can make him overdrive the corner. That's going to be what's going to give one of these guys an opportunity to make a pass.
And we have seen that happen many a times in battles for the race lead and whatnot, that it's those mistakes that are the backbreakers. But if Falkenham is there now, Cozy, one of the drivers who has really only gone forwards. The interesting thing about this group here, if you include Preet in it, who again, significantly further in front of the battle for 4th and 5th, but still, Preet runs 3rd, Cozy's 4th, and Falkenham's 5th. Those cars, as the 77 spins it, there's the mistake, and it's once again on the exit of the bus stop. This time, it bites Michael Cozy Jr., who throws it away.
Again, you know, just that section of the track, you know, during practice, I saw him struggle with that part as well, so you know, just waiting for that to happen. You know, unfortunately, it does happen to some racers. You know, you try to get everything you can out of this machine, and unfortunately, that's what happens. So, you know, you just got to push on now. You got to bounce back strong and just keep that position where it is. He's hanging tough in 6th right now, I believe. So, you know, I'm sure those two drivers in front of him, Falkenham and Bowie, were just waiting for a mistake to happen, and now just got to watch to see what Bowie does in these closing laps.
And now Bowie's in a fantastic position to be able to jump up and take over Falkenham. The problem was Daniel Falkenham was much closer in getting to Michael Cozy than Bowie was in getting to Falkenham. So that gap is still pretty significant. I don't know if that 43 Machine O'Brien has a good shot at catching him now as we work on the penultimate lap. It's just a little bit under 1 second of a difference, and you know, unless Falkenham makes a mistake, which again you never know, but I think he doesn't feel the pressure like he had just been applying to Cozy. I think Bowie might be a little bit too far out back. Never say never. We've seen a lot happen here tonight. What I can tell you is that Dylan Jones in the 11th Ford, he's coming off of the final quarter. He is taking the white flag. 1 lap left to go from Watkins Glen.
1 lap, you need to be flawless if you want to come home and get another victory. And for Dylan Jones, I don't think that's going to be very difficult. Won 4 in a row a while back, had 1 race get spoiled in that. We could potentially be talking about 6 wins in a row for Dylan Jones if he could have somehow pulled it off last week. But now, as he goes up through the S's for the final time, he just needs to get up through here, hit the bus stop cleanly, and then he is basically home free from that point on. And now, as we look at that, you can just see there's not really a whole lot going on. Brandon Bowie and Daniel Falkenham, they've gotten spread out. There's not really any close battles going on the racetrack, so everybody's just trying to bring it home on this last lap.
Just get it home in one piece. You've done the fighting. You just have to put the bow on it and close this one out. Looks like that, barring any major shakeup, everybody is going to be able to just tiptoe home. And the 11 Dylan Jones is going to come off of the bus stop. But again, cannot say how impressive this run has been enough times. It was a P2 last week, and that was considered a drop for him because he had won in all 4 of the weeks prior to that. This time, though, it's going to be some late race heroics, overcomes mistakes. Dylan Jones is going to come off of the final quarter. Once again, a race winner, 5 for 6. Jones wins from Watkins Glen.
Really great job by Dylan Jones. You know, we saw him start 2nd on the grid, had a little trouble in that beginning, but he figured out what he liked in this track. He figured out where he was fast, and he took advantage of that. And just after those restarts, he was able to really open it up and take that lead away. You know, it's a few mistakes here and there from each and every driver here tonight, and really just gave advantage to everybody. And Dylan Jones really took advantage of the most of it.
Still drivers coming through and completing the final lap in this one. Michael Cozy Jr. in the 77, very frustrated as he sends that car into the inside wall at the completion of this race and trying to get some of those frustrations out. Dwayne Vincent also started this race in P8, one of the veteran drivers of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. He is still coming around, and we have the final driver to complete this race as he will finish exactly where he started. But What a race, Brian. You talk about, when we come to the road course, you see less cars, and certainly it was the case tonight, but this thing was packed full of action. 2 caution flags, some big wrecks, a lot, though, of fantastic racing, which we come to expect on a Monday night.
This was one of the better races on a road course that I think I've gotten to watch here in a very long time. To see those 3 drivers going after it for so long between Dylan Jones, Andrew Freenar, Spencer Pre, I did not expect that at all because of how quick we saw Freenar's at the beginning of the race being and the number of mistakes that we saw Dylan Jones make. I just did not see that type of a battle happening, and what an incredible race we got to have, and what an incredible show these guys were able to put on for the viewers tonight.
Fantastic show, and he gets to celebrating. It is Dylan Jones's night from Watkins, Glen, New York. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. When we come back, post-race action going to resume. We'll have an opportunity to talk with the top finishers, get you set for a couple of fun ones. Darlington and Indianapolis still to come as we close out segment 2. You're watching the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by English Auto L.L.C. The post-race show is next on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSRTV, and it may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Live Sim Racing LLC and iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations. LSRTV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. Back live from Watkins Glen International, another exciting road course bout in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by English Auto LLC, drawing to a close here tonight, with Jones picking up what is a 5th win for him in 6 weeks of competition here on Monday nights. We'll go trackside, talk with him, the rest of your top finishers in just a moment as we welcome you back in to the LSR TV booth. Evan Pasoko, Brian Backlund, Trevin Falderano with you, with Cisco Scarmuzza in the production trailer. Before we go down trackside, let's recap, look top to bottom at your LSR TV full race results. Jones gets the win from second position. He didn't lead this race until the second half, but in fact, nobody led this race in the first half besides Farinars. It was all him until it fell apart late. It will be a good enough recovery for a P2, but you have to think that he felt good about this one. Spencer Preet, great charge, comes home third. Both of the drivers will be chatting with momentarily. Daniel Funkadam comes home with a P4 result tonight, and Brandon Bowie will round out your top 5 finishers with Michael Cozy in 6th, Kyle Kamer 7th, Brian, and Dwayne Vincent, final driver on the lead lap in P8.
Yeah, P9 will go to Tom Morano. He was 1 lap down here tonight. The rest of these drivers multiple laps down, with the exception of, actually, I think all of these drivers ended up in the garage by the conclusion of this thing. Michael Guerrilla will come home in the P10 position. Lionel Callisto comes home 11th. Brian Chambliss, after the lap 1 incident, he was able to get up to P12. Daniel Eberhardt will finish P13, and then Braden Whitaker will round out your 14-car field here tonight at the Watkins Glen Raceway. And now Evan Pasoko, familiar sight down there in Victory Lane, the same driver you've talked to in 4 out of the last 5 weeks, now make it 5 out of the last 6, Mr. Dylan Jones down in Victory Lane.
It continues to be such an impressive run for Dylan Jones that he gets another one, this time from Watkins Glen, as we step trackside with the driver of the 11 machine. Dylan, congratulations on another one. It's been 2 weeks since we've talked to you, and that's been a lot longer than normal over the course of these last few weeks as you pick up your 5th win in your last 6 starts. But this one was not a dominating performance, and it did not come easy. Andrew had a lockdown through the opening half of this race, but on that second caution flag, it looked like you and a handful of other drivers flipped the switch and really took it to him. Tell us about what changed there and that exciting battle with you and those several other cars that went on for some time.
It was go time. Early in the race, me and Andrew were running pretty consistent lap times on top of each other, and then we got that yellow. And then we went into fuel mode. We were sitting right on fuel mileage. It would have been real interesting if that second yellow didn't come out. But after that, we were all good on fuel, and everyone knew it was go all out and throw caution to the wind, burn up them tires. That's what everyone was doing out there. Spencer was out there giving it all. He was driving like a madman. I was behind him there. I was like, oh man, how's this guy holding on to this car? He was sliding all over the place and still pulling me on exit. And then Andrew made a little mistake. We were able to get all bunched up there, and we made the right move and got out front.
Certainly was a lot of fun for us to call it topside. How fun is it for you from behind the driver's seat, not only to have a fast race car and to be able to fight for race wins, but to be able to do it like that? Because I'll tell you what, it was one of the more impressive battles for a race win we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, road courses are always tons of fun. I know a lot of guys hate them, as you can kind of see tonight. But I think the racing, it usually lends to good racing all the time, just as it does in real life. Some of the best racing is done on a road course. There's lots of chances to make mistakes. There's lots of strategy that can get played, and it always ends up pretty fun.
I'll completely agree with you on that sentiment. Just to talk about the numbers, and I know that, even without the victory the last time out, it was still a P2 result, so you haven't finished outside of the top 2 since the beginning of June. So in 5 days, it'll be a 2-month streak for you guys. Your average finish since then has been a 1.16. You came into tonight, in a position where you had a 22-point lead in the Segment 2 championship and gain a little bit more tonight as you look up to lock up that $150 prize here with 2 races still to go on the segment. I'm sure we've asked you many times as you get a lot of these wins, but, to be able to come back and get wins, and we've brought it up before, the fact that it's, a lot of the time, it's not a car that wins by 10, 15 seconds. Even on ovals, sometimes we see very dominant cars. It just seems like if you have a race car that's got a fighting shot, you're somehow able to find out how to close it out. So maybe we'll give you the nickname the closer, but what is it about these last few weeks that have allowed you to do this?
We just been running really well. The races have been coming to us. I think I've said it probably just about every win. With the guys in here, there's a lot of competition, and it's about mistakes. You gotta capitalize on them. You can't make them yourself. Just like again tonight, Andrew messed up on the bus stop, had the lead there, and we took advantage, and then we didn't make any mistakes. And that's what my motto is going to be going forward: is don't make mistakes and grab at every opportunity you can get.
Exactly what the doctor ordered, and I know that you mentioned that a lot of drivers don't like these road courses, and it was evident by a lot of drivers who didn't feel like they had a shot sitting this one out. As we go to close out this segment, though, and you again try to defend that points lead, 2 very interesting racetracks, Darlington and then Indianapolis, racetracks falling in a very critical portion of the calendar for you, and 2 racetracks that really don't have any comparables that have run before up until this point in the season, and they're really not like anything that we'll see from that point on into the season to the end. So you go into 2 very unique racetracks, 2 fun racetracks, and very iconic places. Are those places that the 11 machine can go to victory lane in and lock up and walk away with some hardware by the time it's done?
Yeah, I would think this 3-race stretch right here with Glen, Darlington, and Indy is probably the hardest stretch. Those are some of the hardest tracks on here. Road courses are always difficult, and Darlington, everyone knows how difficult that is, and Indy is such a technical track with the long straightaways. If you make a mistake, you got a long way to lose speed down that straightaway. I'm not a super fan of Darlington, but we'll try and run well. But we're a big fan of Indy. I love that track. Haven't been there for a while, so I have to put in a few laps of practice.
Look forward to those ones as this calendar really challenges you guys to the end of the year, but I know you really had to work hard for this one, so we'll let you jet out of here, Dylan. Before we do, as always, the sponsors and the shout-outs, who's putting that 11 machine up front so often.
Just thank all the guys at LSRTV, everyone at Aegis. Dave was on the box tonight, telling me not to wreck it. Andrew for going out there and giving us a run for our money. Just all the guys at Aegis, everyone out there tonight. It was a fun race.
The race winner from Watkins, Glen International, and your segment 2 points leader. 8 races down and 2 to go. Dylan, always appreciative of your time. We're tending to borrow a lot of it recently, but again, congratulations on the win, and enjoy the week off. We'll catch you, though, when we come back 2 weeks in a row. Darlington and Indianapolis. Best of luck as you try to go and lock up that segment 2 title.
Yep, thanks, guys.
Race winner tonight from Watkins, Glen. Coming on behind him is Andrew Faridars. Oh, so close to a win here tonight. Looked very good at the early stages. Looked dominant at the second half of this race. Looked like he had just as good of a shot at winning it as everybody else. The stars don't align tonight, but it's still a great P2 for the drive of the 88 track side. With him is Brian Backlund.
Yeah, winner a week ago, now back down to a runner-up finish. Andrew Freenars, you had the dominant car all night, started on the pole, led the most laps, and unfortunately, a really great battle between you, Dylan Jones, and the number 37 of Spencer Preet led to you falling back to finishing second. Take us through your night.
Yeah, first off, I need to apologize to everybody on this team. I gave the race away. Blew the bus stop there. I think, we started on pole. I thought we had a good car. We were able to save tires like we should have. Everything was going to plan. Then a few cautions came out that threw a little wrinkle. I didn't really know what we were going to do. And then we got that second caution. It was in the lead. They were fighting for second. I was minding my own business, and I just blew the bus stop and gave it away. Fun race, though, fun race there with Spencer, though. I mean, we were just talking talking about it. It was fun. We were messing up the bus stop and sliding everywhere and whatnot, but that was a blast. Hope the fans enjoy that because that was a ton of fun on the track, but gotta feel disappointed. We came in today really expecting to win, and I blew it, plain and simple.
Obviously, it's very difficult to take that one. How difficult is it from the driver's standpoint when you're out front, you're able to get into a nice little rhythm like you were in that race, and then all of a sudden you're in the middle of a battle? How much does that change your mentality on the racetrack and the way you're approaching the race compared to when you were out there by yourself and you were able to just kind of hit your own marks?
Yeah, I actually, the reason I blew the bus stop, I started looking behind me and they were beating me in there, so I tried to take it in a little deeper, and man, it did not work. So, I think once I got behind him, then it was just trying to follow Spencer there. He was sliding everywhere and still able to keep it going. I was extremely impressed by that. It was a little scary to try to pass him, but when we got back there, I was not back there all race, and it was so hard to pass. I think once I finally got by him, my tires were shot, and there was no real chance to get Dylan there.
We heard Dylan talking to Victor Lane about how Watkins, Glen, Darlington, and Indy are probably 3 of the hardest tracks that you're going to have to go to. How do you feel about the next couple of weeks coming up, having Darlington in 2 weeks and then Indianapolis right before we head into the playoffs?
Yeah, only being on iRacing a year like I've been, this is the second time I'm coming around to Darlington and Indy, so I don't really know. When I was there at Indy last year in Darlington, I struggled deeply, so it's going to take a lot more practice, and even tonight when we were out front, Dylan was just quicker. After last week in the NASCAR iRacing Series and AFIX, I thought we had a good chance tonight. We just didn't have the speed, so definitely going to buckle it down and really practice a lot because Dylan's still got more speed than me, so I think that's what we need to do.
Well, and obviously heading into the playoffs, that's something you guys have definitely got to get ready to go, get that momentum up, get the speed up, and be ready to challenge for the championship. But before we let you go here tonight, Andrew, who makes it happen for on the 88 car? Sponsor shout-outs, who do you need to thank tonight?
Got to thank my brother for building computers, everybody at Aegis, Dave on the box again, just cheering us on. I love he's been doing it the past few weeks, and it's really paid off. Daniel, man, he can't catch a break these past few races, so hope he's watching. Sorry for getting mad at you there through the race. Dylan, of course, he always helps. Kyle, Eric, just everybody on Aegis. My dad for watching. All the fans, I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's a smaller field, but I think we put on a heck of a show. So, and you guys for admin and put on the broadcast.
Indeed, you guys did. It was a great show here tonight. Congrats on your second place finish. We'll see you in 2 weeks at Darlington.
Thanks so much. Have a good night, guys.
That's Andrew Freenar's winner last week, runner-up again this week, and he's definitely got some momentum. Maybe not the momentum we've seen Dylan Jones have, but definitely on a roll. Now we have our third-place finisher down with Trevin Valderrama on pit road. Spencer Preet is with Trevin.
Down here on pit lane with the third-place finisher for tonight, the 37 is Spencer Preet. Spencer, you started 11th here tonight at Watkins Glen, the 2.43-mile track that is absolutely grueling. How tough was it to get yourself through that front of the pack?
Oh, it was brutal in the opening stage of the race. I mean, I probably would have been running like 4th or 5th by the end of it if it had not seen those yellows that kind of re-racked us, and you know, we were able to reset because I had kind of used my stuff up in those first. I think we had 14 laps in the first run of the race, and I went from 11th to 3rd, and I was really starting to feel it there, like the tires were going. So. I mean, it was tough. It's so hard to pass here. There's very limited places where you can really send it in on someone, and most other spots you really have to just try to get a really good run off and hope that they give it to you going to the next corner. So it's tough to pass. You kind of got to pick and choose where you want to do it. So, yeah, I mean, it was rough coming up through the field. I really wish I need to start qualifying, and qualifying well is really the key.
And, you know, you come into tonight and you're thinking in your head, you know, this is going to be a green flag all the way run to the finish. And then, you know, you already have a game plan planned out for when you think you want to pit. And then all of a sudden 2 cautions come out and forces you into a 2-stop strategy. What was really your mindset, and how were you adjusting to all of that?
I mean, honestly, I wasn't too prepared even if we were going to go green. I think I was really just kind of try to do what everyone else did. I didn't think I was going to beat anyone on speed, and I didn't think I was going to beat anyone on strategy either. So, but the cautions came out, and the cautions were great because it allowed me to kind of reset and regroup. And I felt like if I could get up there, I would be able to apply some pressure and maybe make something happen, which did for a minute. I was able to, you know, get out, lead a couple laps, but I was driving it so much harder than the guys around me. To keep up with them. They were quicker than me, and I had to use up all my stuff just to stay with them, try to keep ahead of them, and then try to stay with them once I lost the lead again. And it was just going downhill from there. I don't know how long that last run of the race was, but I mean, the tires just were absolutely gone. I was on the rims by the end of the race because I was just sliding in every single corner.
Well, you hung on to it really well. You know, coming up now, you know, you have 4 ovals. You're back to oval racing, and then October 1st, you go back to that Charlotte track, but it's a roval this time. What is really your mentality, and what are you looking forward to there?
Well, I loved the Charlotte road course back in its like old configuration that we've come to know and love on iRacing. But I don't know what they're doing, if that's going to be updated by the time that we get there. I'm not too sure about that, but I mean, I'm excited for it. I love road courses. I consider myself to be a pretty good road course racer, at least in stock cars. I think I'm pretty quick. So, I mean, I look forward to them, and I always aim high and try to do my best. But yeah, I mean, the Charlotte road course is fun. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
And we are as well. So, you know, before we let you get out of here, Spencer, any sponsors, shout-outs, who gets it done for that number 37 machine?
Shout out to everyone at LSR and everyone that puts this on. Shout out to my man Cozy. Had a rough night. He fought hard, and he almost brought home a top 5, and it slipped away in the last couple laps. But he gave it his all, and shout out to him and his stream for all the support. And shout out to everyone watching.
All right, thank you, Spencer. Congratulations on your 3rd place finish.
Thank you.
So that's a quick chat with our top 3 finishers. Dylan Jones first, Andrew Friedars second, and Spencer Preet in 3rd spot. The Jones-Friedars battle is something that I believe is pretty much going to come all the way down to Homestead if I had to take a guess on who some of those drivers are going to be come championship season. But we are not quite there yet as we close the book on this one. Trevin, 2 road course races down, as you mentioned, 1 to go. But I don't know. We had a lot less cars at this one than Sonoma, but I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it doesn't really matter how many cars you have. It's always going to produce great racing, especially at a track like this. You know, you have some places where people are going to be better than others at. That just comes with any other racing. And, Spencer said it best, we don't know what the track configuration is going to be like come the Charlotte Roval, and I'm really looking forward to that race and how these drivers are going to take that from what they've learned from Sonoma and Watkins Glen and put it to a new, completely different kind of road course that we've never seen before on this iRacing service.
It'll certainly be exciting, Brian. Before we get to there, there's a lot to come, a lot of exciting things before the Roval Heat race is going to be introduced for the race at Richmond. That one's going to be the second race of the playoffs, but Darlington and Indy to come as we get set to close out Segment 2, crown a Segment 2 champion, and then go playoff racing at the end of the year. And those are two racetracks. You heard it when I was talking with Dylan Jones, of course, that are very unique and kind of hard to predict what we'll see. Darlington, we know, is going to be exciting. Some bent sheet metals, some bent feelings. I mentioned that things got a little bit sideways at a couple of points tonight, and maybe some of that will spill over into that race. And then the Brickyard, always a tough one to call as we close it out in 3 weeks from now.
Darlington is one of my favorite racetracks, if not my very favorite racetrack. I almost wish I could get out on the track with them in 2 weeks' time and see if I could maybe steal the show for a night. But these guys have put on one heck of a show all season long. And like you mentioned, Evan Pasoko, I think it's going to come right down to the wire between Dylan Jones and Andrew Freenars. They have definitely made their cases for being in the championship for when we get to Homestead. And now the question just becomes, is there anybody that can kind of step up and be able to challenge those two drivers? We really haven't seen anybody that has been able to do so over the course of the last month and a half to 2 months. And we're getting to that point of the season where if you're going to do it, now is the time to bring what you've got to the table. So it's going to be very interesting to see if there's anybody that can do that. I do believe if Daniel Eberhardt can get out of the slump that he has been in the last couple of weeks, he might be the one driver that can definitely jump up there and be a contender when we get to Homestead.
Certainly, tonight was a tough one for him. He looks forward to shaking out of that break. As we noted, we are going to be off next Monday night. There's some exciting sim racing action coming up to you, including a doubleheader next Sunday. So you're going to make sure you want to tune in for that one. You can find our full schedule online at livesimracing.com. But make sure you're keeping up to date with us on social media by liking us on Facebook at facebook.com/LSRTV official, and by following us on Twitter at LSRTV to make sure that you keep up to date with absolutely everything. On behalf of our entire team at Live Sim Racing L.L.C, for Kyle Barnes, Doug Atkins, everybody else who makes RSR possible, and for your broadcast team tonight. For myself, Evan Pasoko, for Brian Macklin, Trevin Valderrama, and our producer, Cisco Scarabuzza, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Dylan Jones. Win number 5 for him. He looks to close out segment 2 with 2 races to go as we get set to return on August the 26th for the Darlington Raceway. That race and every race of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series can be found right here on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Until next time, good night.